So I would like to introduce our next speaker, by the way. Not by the way, Jason Porterfield. Jason heads up the architecture advisory team in North America. And a couple things I want to say before Jason comes up is I want to thank Jason and the team for being such incredible supporters of this community and this event. You know, to have someone who'll just have the trust the right things will come together and just a few people will come is awesome. And the second piece I want to highlight that I don't think I made apparent to the people in this room. We're talking about technology, right? In many cases, technology, right? Yes, that's one piece of the equation you've heard. The other piece is the human side. So what I'm a firm believer in to help this community not help their companies better from a technology side, but help you folks as individuals both help your companies and help yourself develop and evolve. So you're going to see a lot of context and program. We'll talk more for the next days about not just S4, BTP, blah, 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 all that stuff, but the human side of things from an architect's side as well. So more on that, and without further ado, I want to welcome Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning. I am not the last one before lunch. I'm sorry, there's one more after me. So Paul mentioned the human side of things. I'm going to talk about the architecture role, or rather the architecture profession. I consider myself an architect regardless of the technology stack I'm working on. I've been one for about 16 years. It's been the hardest work I've ever done. It's also been the most fun work I've ever done. Okay. But in preparing for this, I asked Paul, hey, show me the schedule. Who am I on after? And he showed me, I'm like, I'm on after Rashad and Andre and Wendy. Wow, how am I going to follow that? And Paul's response is, just tell a funny enterprise architecture joke. So, okay, let me make sure I get this straight. A funny enterprise architecture joke. Do you understand what happens if I actually pull that off? It's like crossing the streams in Ghostbusters, folks. I don't know that it exists, so I'm not going to try to do that today. But I am going to talk about our role. And first piece is mindset. Rashad talked about it earlier today. I think he had some fantastic points of view, many of which I've read in my own research. But how we look at things today and tomorrow cannot be how we've looked at them in the past. Change is a constant. Every year I hear everybody say there's more change now than ever. And next year we'll hear the exact same thing. Right? New technologies, changes in the economy, changes in the world, whatever it may be. So a constantly evolving mindset is key to the enterprise architecture role. Right? Our content, our roadmaps should be living documents. None of our content should be static. Anybody ever build a fantastic, massive Visio diagram that prints on a 40-inch piece of paper? You build it and like, oh my God, this is awesome, look what I did. And it's already out of date. Right? Because somebody introduced a change, or somebody outside of IT, or maybe within IT bought something new and said, here, catch. So our mindset is key. I have two very strong opinions about enterprise architecture. The best enterprise architects tell the best stories. You may be the most brilliant person in the room, but if you're up in front of an audience, whether it's external or maybe more importantly, your internal leaders, and you're up there trying to tell a story and you can't make eye contact or captivate your audience, it doesn't matter how right you are. Right? The ability to tell stories, the ability to communicate, translate our ridiculously complex work that we do. Right? How many people have ever built a wiring diagram connecting a gazillion apps, etc.? That's it? And some of you don't want to admit it? Okay. How many of you have ever put one of those in front of a CIO or a CFO? Okay. How many of you have done a rock star job at communicating why they should care about it? The CIO should get it. Okay. How many have failed? We got more hands on the fail. Right. It's not easy, right? What we do, how do we translate that into something that our business partners care about, right? The days of IT in a silo and then the rest of the business, those are long gone for successful companies. It doesn't work. It just does not. So the best architects tell the best stories. They figure out how to bridge the gap. Highly successful enterprise architects are called in to help solve hard problems, not just the technical ones. I have a leadership team that works for me, and they support various leaders across SAP's business. And my feedback to them is you need to earn a spot on each of those senior leaders' board of directors. Well, they call me every time they have a technology problem. No. You are highly successful as an enterprise architect if they also call you in when they've got a really hard nut to crack and they need somebody who's smart, who thinks differently. It doesn't have to be about tech. That may be our superpower, okay? But that is not the only thing we should be called in for, right? If you can cross that bridge, earn that level of trust and status with your stakeholders, then you start to get pulled upstream into the business strategy discussions. Who wants to be there? Less than half the room, really. Do we need coffee? Can we just bring it in? Okay. I don't know anybody who says, no, I just want to stay down here, work on servers. Everybody wants a seat at the big kid table, right, where the decisions get made, the strategy for the company gets set. As enterprise architects, we have a fantastic opportunity to do that because we understand how everything works that makes the business run. We or our teams. Okay? So learning how to tell good stories, earning that seat at the table, raises our visibility both as individuals and for our organizations. Right? It gets us out of the, oh, you're an IT guy. Anybody ever tell someone they're an architect, like, oh, you're an IT guy, and you immediately get classified and relegated into a box? Yeah? Is that fun? You ever been on a golf course and meet somebody new and tell them that, and they just completely check out on you? Oh, God. Can you help me with my Mac? No, I can't. I still provide tech support for my entire family because my mom says I have to. But, some things you just do. So, those two strong opinions, a lot going on in the world. Right? We've heard that 3 different times already today from our previous speakers. There's a lot going on. Right? These are not threats, these are opportunities. Opportunities, because almost every one of these will have a technology solution of some kind. Maybe more than one technology solution. These will all apply to your company in different ways, your industries in different ways, and this is by no means a comprehensive list. There's a lot going on. That's what makes our job awesome. We get to help be part of the solution, right? To figure out really tough things that are going to change in our industry. And this is I need to update this slide to include things like M&A. Right? M&A levels are down right now, but every time there's mergers and acquisition, those are some fun challenges to figure out. How are we going to merge 2 portfolios of 1,000 apps each? I may be crazy, but I think that's fun to figure out. We're doing all this in the pursuit of business outcomes. Right now, the cool trend is, hey, we're moving from buying products to buying solutions. And with the advent of cloud, which is not new, it's been around for a long time, but a lot more companies are finally getting on board with, I'm going to move from CapEx to OpEx. Not everybody, and the pendulum will probably swing. Those are some of the current trends, all to try to get to an outcome. Another thing our role appreciates is, as soon as we get done with the big project, whether it's a merger or an acquisition or a transformation, there's another one right behind it, right? It's coming. Does anybody work in a company that's static, sits still, you never have big things going on? Right? There's always something coming next. Part of our role is to look out ahead and figure that out. Right? That's why our roadmaps need to be living documents. Has anybody ever designed a 3 to 5 year roadmap? You're done on 12/31, and for the next 3 to 5 years, you implement it exactly as you designed it? Anybody? Please, anybody. Has anybody done that? Not a single hand. right? Because our businesses are not static. They don't stand still. Again, we have to be ready to constantly evolve. And it's our job to figure out and see what's coming so we can get out ahead of that and say, oh, hey, the living roadmap needs to pivot. We need to be planning for a pivot. Bringing that thought leadership to our CTOs, our CIOs, CFOs, who are certainly going to care about the cash flow tied to all of that, right? And other members of the business, running sales, running research and development, running distribution. Where you can bring that thought leadership to them and say, hey, we need to be thinking about this because of what's coming. Then you start to get that seat at the table and elevate yourself and your teams. Gartner agrees. There's a lot going on. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. VUCA. I heard this for the first time a couple years ago. Sounds like a band name from the 80s during the grunge years. I'm secretly a Cranberries fan, don't tell anybody. The fun thing about this hype cycle is a few years ago, it was all to the left. A lot of what we do for a living is starting to mature. Tools are more real and more usable. Right? They've got intelligence built in. They're not just a tool to catalog your environment. They're a tool to help you manage it over years. Right? The superpower of Lean IX and Signavio that Andrea alluded to, but I don't think he hit it hard enough, is it can help you transform and then help you manage it for the next 10 plus years. Right? There's a lot more value in that than there used to be in some of our tools. When we bought Power Designer, or Sybase, which came with Power Designer years ago, I was super excited. Anybody ever seen Power Designer? 1984 Atari graphics. It's awesome. But at the time it was really cool. Right? But it was really for just documenting your environment. It wasn't as effective as managing it. So the tools of our profession are evolving. They're much better than they were before. My biggest problem with EA tools and when I bought them was, I'm going to invest all this time to build out some really cool structures, and then are we ever going to use it again? With a lot of the capabilities and some of the new things, not just us, not just our suite, but other things in the market, they're a lot smarter. They're a lot more valuable than they used to be. So, and those help us be more successful. Hype cycle for emerging technologies. Is anybody tuning out the word, the abbreviation AI yet? Anyway? Me neither. 40% of the topics on this slide are AI related. 40%. I mean, it dominates everything. And there's a lot coming, and we don't know what's going to be real, right? What's going to be the tipping point, whether it's from a consumer perspective or from a business perspective, that really, really drives this home. Generative AI, ChatGPT, it's super, super awesome. It'll help you rewrite your resume. It'll help your kids write their papers for school. That's a fun thing to try to figure out if they're doing it or not. I've got 2 teenagers. Every time I try to ban websites on the home router, they figure out different websites to go to. It's awesome. But there's a lot coming. Curious point, the only thing that's on this slide and the previous slide, value stream management. Value. The only one that came over to both. Because we get so hyped up in the technology, we sometimes forget about, hey, what's the value of this? To our stakeholders, back to how do I tell stories, how do I get people interested? I've got to tie it to value and the outcomes. There's a lot coming. What I wish was on here more is cybersecurity, because when I think about AI, okay, and some of the things I'm seeing already, I am terrified with some of the things we're going to see around cybersecurity from a threat perspective. Our engagement is key. Does everybody in the room feel like you are as engaged as you should be by your business partners? Like maybe 2 hands? Are you engaged by your business partner? Okay, but not as much. So there's a yes, but is what I'm hearing. Okay, yes, but. I will try to make all the white papers, these screenshots come from available when we post the decks. there's a ton of research out there that shows the value of our role. So it's not just you making the argument with your stakeholders. There's a lot of research that backs up the value of our role. It's there. Number one role in 2022, Enterprise Architects. As of Sunday night, 2 days ago, there were 2,531 open Enterprise Architect jobs on Indeed.com. 2,531. That's a lot. There's a lot of demand for the role. And that's just the ones that said enterprise architecture, right? If I broadened it to architecture, I got all sorts of stuff around construction. Not quite there. Okay. Anybody ever been confused with a construction architect? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. More, right? U.S. Department of Labor, one of the number one growing jobs of the last decade, and that'll continue. Technology has not gotten simpler, right? I see about 24 phones up taking pictures. It's fine. You don't need to stop. But the point is, those devices alone introduce so much complexity into our landscapes, right? And that's just one of many introduced over the last few years. Right? Our landscapes, the technology, the number of options, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud or a hybrid model. Is it a subscription? Is it a perpetual license? What's the upgrade look like? What tech stack is it built on? Right? I mean, despite everyone trying, COBOL is still alive and well. Right? Not under anything current, but still out there in our environment, stuff we get to talk to. And there's so many more things coming. So our role, it's critical. Nobody can do what we can do. Right? Not being engaged enough. Your businesses will come to regret that if they don't leverage their EAs to help be part of the solution. Okay. So that's just the general research on the role. And there's a ton of it out there. Specific to SAP, Forbes wrote an article earlier this year that there's not enough SAP skill sets in the market. Nothing about architecture in particular, but if there aren't enough SAP skilled people in the marketplace, I can assure you there are not enough SAP skilled architects in the marketplace, because the architects are a subset of that total population. ASUG, 25% of projects can't find enough people. So there's demand for what we do. It's out there. I'm not encouraging everybody to go start job hopping. No. But the point is, we are needed. We are special. But the talent's not easy to find. 2,500 open jobs on Indeed. I searched LinkedIn. There were over 1,300 on LinkedIn. There were another 1,200 on Glassdoor. I did not dedupe them, but I'm sure there's a lot of overlap. But a ton of demand, and this is not an easy skill set. People who can see the big picture, right, and tie it all together and then translate it into something that our stakeholders understand. And more importantly, understand why it matters and why they should care when it comes to pitching our projects, right, governing those landscapes, making an argument for why we do or don't adopt the coolest thing. Right? It's hard to find these people. It's hard to train them. Anybody found a way to take people right out of college and turn them into enterprise architects? Anybody tried and failed? I have. Yeah, we tried. It's hard. All right, you need the intuition, you need the experience, you need to know how your business runs. All right, you've been in an industry for 20 years, you get it. Right? You know the players. You have intuition about your business. Right? Oh, yeah, we did this before. This is how every time we do this, the government does this. Right? Or how the systems that have built or been put together over the last 20 years, how they work. Oh, if I start spinning this dial, that light's going to flash. Right? That intuition takes time to build, right, and understand. And then realize you know it and then can communicate it. Gartner's point of view. Right, so VUCA, again, on the left, right? Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Right? And I said this before, mindset's important, that we have to change it, we have to evolve it. We have to be ready to constantly take in new things. Okay, the best EA practices are evolving constantly, not every few years. Right? Students of emerging technology. Anybody heard that one before? We should be out on the forefront playing with whatever free time we don't have. Right? You know, Rashad said an hour a day learning. For this role, I think it's table stakes. I didn't say it's easy. We've all got jobs, responsibilities, we've got kids, a million other things going on in our lives, but it is critical that we all carve out that time. Regardless of the topic or the subject matter, how are we staying current? Right? Because otherwise you don't open yourself up to the art of the possible and what opportunities may be there for your business partners. I spend a lot of time looking at things that have nothing to do with SAP so that I can try to reduce the blinders I may have because I work for SAP. Make sense? Not perfect, but it helps. Okay. An example of what we do that nobody else can do. Find your own story for this, for your teams, for yourselves, for your companies, for your leaders. Okay? Nobody can take a highly complex diagram that I don't want to put in front of a CIO, but turn it into something I will put it into a CIO. And here's the talk track for this specific one. Okay? We have a highly complex landscape. In this case, yes, the answer was SAP. Forgive me. And there's a lot that SAP can do to help us reduce our complexity. Okay, what's that mean? That means that after doing our analysis, everything in red goes away. Everything in blue still needs some additional research. Everything in black stays. And then all of a sudden I had something I could use to tell a story to my CIO and my CFO because I'm showing very simply how I can reduce complexity and reduce cost as we transform. There's a million things that have to happen for the program that delivered this to actually work, don't get me wrong, but this is how we positioned it at a strategic level. Right? Nobody else can do that except us in our roles as EAs. Right? The diagram, I know it's an eye chart, it's unreadable on purpose. But being able to craft that story, right? And then also, maybe across regions, business units, etc. Right? It's easy when we have one business. If you're a company that has a single business, single line of business. If you're somebody like Coke Systems, right, out of Wichita, Kansas, they have like 15 different operating companies. They're all extremely heterogeneous. There's no similarities among them. Right? To go build a story for a company that is as complex as that, right, where I've got multiple landscapes, and I'm trying to figure out what we can be consistent, where we can drive synergies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody does that except us. Period. Find me another role that does this, right, that tries to string this all together and figure it out. I think it's awesome. Again, the last 16 years, I've never worked so hard in my life, and I've never had as much fun. So, now, if we don't challenge ourselves to rise above, to get better at telling stories, to earn the seat at the table to tell the bigger stories, well, then you might end up with a subscription to Architecture Digest. I'm about to renew for year 9 because I don't have the guts to tell my mom the truth. Well, I do. I've tried and it's failed, so I'm just, yeah. She always asks, you still like it? Like, yeah, Mom, thank you so much. We also will continue to fight this one. I really liked Andre's elevator example earlier. Right? This is another one from Gartner. Right? We're either up in the ivory tower building perfect architectures that can't be implemented, or we're lost in the weeds trying to debug a program that doesn't really matter in the big scheme of things. Right? There's a mythical right balance. The mythical right balance is not mythical. It's the balance we need to strive for so that we're balancing the needs and outcomes the business is striving for with the technology, the governance, the data quality, the standards that we have to enable those outcomes in a sustainable manner. Right? Not easy. So it is not a mythical balance. It's the balance everybody has to find for their own company, their own industry. Right? So I think we got a pretty cool job. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. Over the next 2 days, you're going to see a ton of content from us, from our partners, from other guests that are here today. It's going to include a lot of things around SAP and our technology. It's going to include things that have nothing to do with our tech stack, because we wanted to make it a point to have non-SAP thought leadership in the building. Okay, you're going to see a lot, well, about our tech stack, unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, but you're going to see a lot. I want you to understand one thing as you see the sessions over the next few days. SAP strategy is about speed. It's not about RISE. It's not about a SaaS or a SaaS-like model where we're going to host your ERP on Amazon. Okay, that's the execution. That's not what we're trying to enable. We're trying to enable speed. Speed of innovation, speed of adoption of new functionality. That's what we want to do for our customers. If what you see from us doesn't map to this, I'll be in the hallway. Stop me. Let's find a whiteboard. Okay? We are trying to enable speed. Our cloud portfolio, you're going to see tons of stuff about this if you haven't already. Right? Our cloud ERP, our state-of-the-art platform, our different partners, the services we're providing. You're going to get a lot of this stuff. It's about speed, not about the tech stack. Okay? Not about time. Here's what it comes down to. When I say speed, there's a regular curve of innovations that come out. The overwhelming majority of our customers today have trouble upgrading on a regular basis. Who upgrades more than once a year for SAP? Not talking about hot fixes or security patches. Who upgrades every year for SAP? Every 2. 1/10 of the room. Every 3. Almost half. Okay, I'm going to stop there because it's just going to give me an ulcer. I get it. It's not easy, right? And when SAP loses sight of the fact that we're not the only thing in your environment, right? You may have dozens, if not hundreds, of other applications that also have to be governed. Totally understand. Upgrades are not easy. Our strategy of getting our customers to run their ERP in the cloud and let us help management is so we can drive access to the innovation faster and give you the option to adopt it faster. Speed. That's what it's about. Fundamentally, it's where we're trying to get our customers. We want to get you into a managed cloud estate so you can drive adoption faster of all the things we want to bring you or the things you need to build in things like BTP or some other development platform. Speed, speed, speed. So please keep that in mind as you're seeing all the sessions for the next 2 days. Okay? So key takeaways. Challenge your thinking. Right? Our role is critical. Great stories, asked to help solve tough problems, not just the technical ones. Okay? Living roadmaps. Everybody have a good review process for their roadmaps? Quarterly, every 6 months? There's like 3 hands up. Everybody think it's a good idea? Okay, whew. That's better. That's what we have to evolve to, okay? And then finally, like I said, our strategy is about speed. So, thank you for your time today, folks. Appreciate it. No, I'm going to put this down.
So two things. You forgot one key takeaway. What did you forget? Do you know?
I forgot about the conversation corners in the back.
There you go. Architect advisory, conversation corners back there. And what is the last thing?
Flag picture.
There we go. These folks have been working on their smiles. You guys know the drill. Tight flag. Oops.